So if you have vintage Movado and you want to identify it, you want to find its serial number, reference number, model, when it was made, then this video and my website are the only places on internet that can show you how to do it. So you're pretty much stuck here with me watching this boring video, so keep watching. Throughout its history, Movado used the whole whooping 4 different, very not similar to each other systems of reference numbers and serial numbers. This is so confusing. There are all kinds of tables, and again, I have all these tables on my website, but it's so confusing and so difficult that I actually need to make this video to teach you how to use these tables. The only place online that has this information is this website and this video, but all this information is coming from this amazing book. It's not my book, I didn't write it. It's called The Movado History. And this book is actually much easier to and much more straightforward to use than my website. So I would say, like, if you have like one watch and you want to figure it out and you want to check something quickly, use my website. But I bought this book on my Amazon myself, and I recommend you buy this book if you have like more than one watch. I will actually have all this information about my website with tables in the description, about this book in the description. I will maybe in the future I will even create an affiliated link. So right now it's not going to be, it's going to be just like regular link. But again, like if you're using this information that's coming from the research of this guy, it would make sense to actually buy his book and support him financially, because like the work that he's done here, just absolutely amazing. Movado is so confusing. You're gonna see it. Okay, so we're gonna use a watch, one of the watches that Eric Wind sold, and we're gonna go over everything, how to identify it, where the serial and reference numbers, and like what can you learn from it. First, we need to figure out which reference number systems Eric's watch falls into, and because we don't know the year just yet, then we need to look at these numbers. So we can notice that on page 194, this is explained. All 4 systems are explained. So basically, number 1 and number 2, they have numbers engraved on the inside of the caseback. In systems 3 and 4, after year 1971, they started engraving some numbers outside, on the outside side of the caseback. So we can see on the Eric's case, there is nothing engraved on the outside of the caseback, but there are numbers inside of the caseback. And so we know that this is either system 1 up to 1966 or system number 2 from 66 to 71. But we can say that in Eric's case, we don't see this 8 or 9 digit number, single number engraved. But what we see instead is what system number 1 tells us. So we have actually 5-digit number and a 6-digit number. There is actually A in front of that 6-digit number, but there is some inaccuracy in this book and in these tables. But Eric's watch clearly falls into the system number 1, which Movado used up to year 1966. Okay, so let's see how the system, the very first system up to year 1966 worked. And there is explanation here how it worked, and there are 2 tables related to that system. Your watch might fall into a different system, so you're supposed to look for explanation in tables that are related to that other system. Everything is on my website. It's just like so confusing how this should be used. So in Eric's case, if you look at this explanation, so A103422 is the serial number, but 19038 is a reference number. And if that would be 4-digit reference number, then that would be 18-karat solid gold watch. In Eric's case, that's 5-digit. so we can figure out additional information about his watch from the table number 2. So if we look at the first number in his references system, that's a number 1, and that means that the watch is stainless steel watch. And the rest of the 4 numbers, 1938, can give us more information about movement. But from the table 1, but we need to keep in mind that there is like old and new. So because there is only 4 numbers, then basically Movado ran out of the reference numbers, so they started reusing the old numbers. So like for example, if your 4 digits fall into this range, then in the old times that would mean the movement for 40, but in the new times that would be movement 230, right? So in Eric's case it's 9038, and it falls into this range. So it means that in the old system that was movement 90, but in the new system, when they started reusing the old reference numbers, then there's gonna be actually either movement 90 or 95. Okay, so let's learn more about Eric's watch and time periods from this information about the movement. Okay, so book also has pictures of the old movements. So in Eric's case, it's gonna be either 90 or 95, and there are pictures of these movements here, and that corresponds to like what we see on Eric's watch. If we go to the table with all the movements, we can get information about 90M and 95M movements. And this actually gives us a lot of very useful information about those movements. So first of all, it gives us time periods when the movement was produced, which can help us date the watch. But for now, we don't know if that's actually movement 90M or 95M. But we can look at these features of the movement. So for example, and these features I actually explained at the end of this table. So for example, this is chronograph. Both are chronographs. So you see there is a chronograph. Both movements 90 and 95 have 60M, which means 60-minute register. But only 95M has 12H, and 12H means hour register. So we can see from Eric's watch that it actually does have, first of all, it's a chronograph, second, it has 60-minute register, but it also has 12-hour register. So this can help us identify that Eric's watch actually 95M movement and not 90M movement. And this can tell us more about that movement and the watch. So it beats at 18,000, 17 joules, how we see 70 joules. And this movement was made from 1939 until was produced until 1970. So this, unfortunately, in Eric's case, it gives us very long date range. In other cases, for example, when I dated my Movado Kingmatic, it gave me a range pretty much 6 years. Here we got actually unfortunate that this from 1939 until 1970. One thing that we can say that this watch uses a system that was used until 1966. So we can say that that watch certainly was made between 1939 and 1966. So this gives us a date range. Sometimes they actually often they say models here. Unfortunately, again, in Eric's case, it's just a chronograph. There is no model, but we know that that's a chronograph of reference 19038 in stainless steel, and that was we have a rough date range from pretty much beginning of 1940s until mid 1960s.